Welcome back, all you Fabricans and Fleshbags, to the super, not funny show, reviews. And today I'm reviewing Anne Rice's Mayfair Witches, Episode 2. That's entitled The Dark Place, coming to you from AMC, streaming on AMC+. So, what did I think about it, and should you be watching? Before we get into the review, get down there, hit the like button on this video. In the aftermath of the previous episode, in which Rowan's adopted mother passed away from cancer, and Dierdre is being reawakened, but thanks to the meddling of a doctor, and Lasher the spirit is kind of on the move, and the Talamasca is sort of up to speed on the fact that some mess is going on. That's what we're thrown into, where Rowan is maybe not at her best mental place. In this episode, she goes about sort of trying to find out who her birth parents are, and learning or finding out that her mom didn't tell her the truth about that, but also noticing that she's getting followed by a certain man, and also she's sort of losing her place at her job because even though she's a great surgeon, apparently, it's noticeable that the death of her mom and all of this uncertainty is affecting her. And so when she eventually is confronted by this man from the Talamasca, as we know, it turns into her almost killing the guy, but also getting his phone and learning more, and then seeing her mom in New Orleans with somebody. That leads her to to New Orleans to find out what she can about her past. At the same time, we have Dierdre, who is now coming out of her 30-year funk, Thorazine funk, and Lasher is definitely there trying to make some moves, trying to get her to wake up and, as he said, reclaim her power, to get her to go and find Rowan. And so what we see is Dierdre not just growing up, but also seeking out our Uncle Cortland, who we saw in the previous episode. And we see the links to which I guess her Aunt Carlotta is going to sort of keep Lasher at bay. And it's one thing I kind of liked about this episode is everyone actually just recognizing, hey, Lasher's a thing. They were saying that, the Talamasca knows that Lasher's a thing that exists. And obviously, Aunt Carlotta knows that. And clearly so does, and we see for sure Cortland in this episode. Also, at the same time, we have Ciprien, who we see a little bit more of as he tries to sort of surveil Rowan and to convince his bosses that he should go ahead and intervene and let her know about who she is and everything. And he's not allowed to, but he does go against it and sort of tries to intercede, and of course gets him almost killed. Which I enjoyed the fact that Rowan, she almost kills people twice in this episode, so she has a gift that doesn't work. It works, but it doesn't work to her at her will. And we also see Ciprien doing something similar. He has the power of psychometry, the ability to touch things and see like a psychic impression of them, and it's all very it's all interestingly presented. I just gave you a synopsis. It all comes to a head, in New Orleans. So what I think about the episode overall, it is a significant improvement, I think, over the first episode, which I liked well enough, but I thought it could have done more. There's several points at which it actually does better. So for one, it's just got a lot more interesting and immediate story going on. The first one was all set up. This is not set up. This is actually the start of the drama. So, as, Lasher sort of gets Dierdre up and moving and he's telling her to go do things, and she clearly has some power around her, and it kind of, follows her and everything. That's cool and interesting, especially as we kind of see flashbacks of what we were going to assume is the origin of Lasher way back in Scotland. So we get to see, the ancestor, and then it kind of parallels a little bit of what Dierdre's, I guess it's trying to point out what Dierdre's going to be going through, or at least ideally. And we see at the end that's not exactly the way it kind of turns out, but we see, you know, the crows and everything like that, and how that may be a sign of Lasher or his power, is his influence. Rowan is he's just a hot ass mess. Let's call it like it is. She's a very functional hot mess, but she's, drinking, and she's kind of emotionally all over the place, especially after having seen Lasher, briefly. But then, she's kicked out of surgery and everything, and so that's kind of her life. She says, I'm at my best when I'm working, so she can't work until she gets a psych evaluation, and just some probing questions leads her to kind of mess with the head of the woman, the psychiatrist, who's asking her the questions about these things. And it's clear she ends up killing that kind of piece of crap, Limley, the CEO of that biotech place. And all of that leads her to try to find out where was I adopted from, and then the adoption agency, she finds out, is not where she was adopted from. And I like that Daddario's, Alexander Daddario's given a lot more to do here, rather than just kind of look pensive or kind of drunk or whatever. There's a lot more intensity to her portrayal. She's she's given the ability to essentially be more than just like super focused or trying to please people, Rowan. And especially she gets to be calculating and kind of like sort of an investigator of sorts. I liked it. I liked her a lot more in this. I liked Rowan a lot more in this episode. I also like that, we see more of the Talamask. It's not a huge amount, but seeing Ciprien and kind of the way he goes about his business, seeing his powers, that was pretty cool too. And the rest of it was really about Dierdre, it was about the ancestors too, but about Dierdre and kind of coming to herself. For whatever reason, that doctor, I want to know. I'm curious. Why the hell did that doctor decide not to give her Thorazine like every other doctor before? And he's got in mind to free her or whatever. But why? There's no real explanation of that, and I'm curious as to why. But she does get up and get out of the house. Her nurse, God bless her. She she had been a taskmaster. It seemed like she was totally in on the plot, and she was. She's paid to do so. But when Dierdre has a chance to be free, she lets her go free. So there's some kind of affection or something there between the two of them, where she allows Dierdre to go free. I really enjoyed that. Seeing her and Lasher sort of, interact. There's a sex scene, and it's very odd. This show is very odd to me in how chaste it is, because the story itself is very much about there's desire and seduction, and there's this spirit, and it's with the witches at all times and everything like that. I mean, very, very interesting, and let's just say sexy time stuff. And yet the sexy time in this show, the two times we've seen it, or three times we've seen it, has been everything but that. Like it's very strangely chaste in that sense, and I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if that's just to avoid fetishizing this story or whatever. I don't know what the genesis of that is, but it's just odd. It's just very odd to me. I'm not saying I'm trying to see all the nooks and crannies or anything, but the sex should be sexy if it's going to happen. Somehow they leached that out of this, and it's very weird to me. But I'm not going to belabor that anymore. There is also the fact that Lasher is, he's still underwhelming to me. It's still an underwhelming presence to me. I'm not quite convinced of his power or his seduction or any of that stuff. But I mean, he's there, and he's leading Dierdre and Rowan to sort of meet. And we see that Cortland, he knows about him and everything. So there's a suggestion that some of the events that have happened where we've seen Cortland have not in fact been just Cortland being him, but he's been maybe doing something for Lasher. And so it all leads to this final, and what I say, a good stinger at the end. Like, I like the stinger at the end where we're expecting Rowan to meet her mother she's riding up the elevator. And she most definitely does. I mean, Deirdre, after she has a confrontation with Carlotta about, leave me alone, I'm going to go do this. And she's been promised that her life is going to change and everything's going to get better, et cetera, by Lasher. And only for Rowan to, meet her in the elevator with her head nearly cut off. That was quite a way to end the episode. And I'm just, I want to know what the heck's what's going on here? What's the Talamasca going to do? What's Lasher up to? Where, who killed her? Why? How did they kill her? All that stuff. I have a suspicion, but I'll leave that for another time. All that being said, I do have a nitpick. I don't like how cheap this show looks. I just don't. This show is a bit. It seems, for a show that's wants to show New Orleans and the grandeur of the Garden District and these rich people and all of this stuff. New Orleans looks like stock footage, generally speaking, in this show. It looks like a cheap, in some ways, cheap CW show. Some of the effects, some of the ethereal effects are not good. They look like we could be watching a soap opera. It could be watching Guiding Light or something like that. I'm very underwhelmed by some of the the directing choices in terms of like how it looks and how things are filmed. So I would like an improvement in that. But as far as story goes, it's very interesting to me right now, and I'm glad they're kind of picking it up there. I just want the cinematography and the direction to match up with the writing of the show. That's what I want. So anyway, those are my thoughts about this episode. I think it's doing pretty good. So what do you guys think about it? And what do you guys think about what I had to say? Get down to the comments section, leave your thoughts there. And of course, you can always hit me up, supernotfunnyshow@gmail.com or at supernotfunnys1 on Twitter. And do me a favor, get down there, hit the like button on that, and hit subscribe, hit the notification, all that good stuff. Helps with the algorithm so more people see these videos. All right, all you Fabricans and Fleshbags, thanks for joining me. Come back next week. We're going to be reviewing the 3rd episode of Mayfair Witches. Until then, I've been Mo de Poupée, your resident Fabricant and comic extraordinaire on all things pop culture. And I'll see you guys on the other side of the thread. Peace.